All right, so welcome to Kashmir Kitab, June 9th, 2023. We are reading Dawn, and Rakesh ji has started sipping on his wine, and maybe I'll bring mine too. So let's get started. I think we have everybody except for Anamika supposed to join, but we'll get started. So yeah, over to you, Rakesh ji.
Yeah, so let's get started. I had said that we'd go through and ask each person to talk about three things that struck them from the beginning to the end of Sarga 1, which includes the foreword, includes everything else. And so why don't we start with you, Shruti? And after we give everybody a chance to say three things, if somebody has some new things they didn't get a chance, raise your hand. We'll give you a chance of what struck you. And then I'll pick a few items and we'll drill more deeply into that from a literary lens. Literary lens. You heard that over and over again from me in Kotarani. You're going to hear that over again from me here. So Shruti, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I think one of the things, of course, that was very striking to me was the fact that Dawn is practicing certain Kashmiri things in her life so far up until the age of 16. But she also expresses surprise when Yuva tells her that you are a Kashmiri, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a Kashmiri." So that was something that I took notice of, that even though she has, it's sort of like she's aware, but her awareness is deepening in a certain way. And so sort of what I was also trying to pick up on is like, what are all the things that she's doing that is Kashmiri, and how is it that she's not like, aware of it? So that was one main thing. Other than that, it was that there is one line that says, our inside is the outside, our outside is the inside. So that reminded me of the line I read in Kotarani about how, the macrocosm is the microcosm and vice versa. So I'm thinking about that theme. And then the third thing I will say is that Dushita has been around since the birth of the universe. So I'm thinking about that as well. Like, what is the significance of that?
Okay. Who wants to go next?
I had a quick question actually, like for you, Rakesh ji. Like, what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, we discussed that the last time. I'll make a note of that. So, okay. Any other observations after you read through Sarga 1?
Okay, go ahead, finish it at the end.
No, you go ahead. I thought you were just
finished.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, that outside is inside and inside is outside. I thought we read that in one of the Lalwaks as well. So I just wanted to confirm with you, did you like get that idea from a Lalwak or was that something else?
Okay.
That's it from me.
Okay. Next. Who wants to go next?
Can I go next?
Yeah.
I also had one of the points which should be mentioned on inside, outside, so I'm going to skip that bit. Another thing was the 1008 names. And I know that it has certain significance, or that's the total number of names of God, so I'd like to know more. Another note of, when there is a flow of deep emotions, it triggers the attainment of newfound freedom. I don't know how to feel that. Like, if I'm feeling a lot of emotions, how does that mean freedom to me? Mm-hmm. Another is Kashmiri literary principles require that you only see as far forward as you see backward. Mm-hmm. Don't know what that means. Thing. She also turned 16, and it's Ekadashi.
Mhm.
So what is the significance? I know something like because turning 16 is a very Western thing. So I'm wondering how is it relevant here? Um, Whatever he touches dies with no possibility of rebirth. But I thought that that's the goal, right? Not breaking the rebirth in that cycle. But whatever
Okay.
Dushita I think touches with no possibility of rebirth. Yes, that's it.
Okay, those very good. All of you guys are very good authors. Okay, let's continue. Yeah.
Can I ask?
Yeah, you go next, Amitaji. What struck you? What struck you?
I'm just curious. I didn't have a chance to read the whole chapter, but I'm curious. Why are they making roti instead of tahari? Because Kashmiris usually make tahari on birthdays,
Right,
but they made roti. So I'm curious about the reasoning behind that.
right.
And the second thing, again, I'm curious because she's Kashmiri. So instead of having the background of Kashmir, why do we have why is she born in US and what is the concept behind that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Rakeshji, I want to ask, um, why these, why this date? Why these names? I was just curious about how did you choose these names? Dushita, Yuva, Kira, Dawn. Like, what was the reason behind that? And one line that stayed with me was, "A central controller divides humans from each other." So that was something.
Mm-hmm.
Vinita ji, you want to
Okay.
go? I think I.
Oh, okay. So at the beginning, I think when you put 19th January, that struck me as the 19th January when it all started for us. So that's the beginning took me back to that also. And then I feel like Yuva is like Ganesha, right? I mean, isn't he Ganesha? Because you say he has one tusk and he's barefoot. And that's what I was thinking, that is it Ganesha? Is that the god you're referring to? Is that him? And the Kira is a Mena, and it's supposed to be in the spiritual Hinduism. It's supposed to be a good thing, like a person with wisdom or knowledge. So is that why you put them there to guide her down the road when the time comes? And
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the half moon was like, so I went back to a lot of books about what is this about moon and Hinduism, and then
Yeah.
then it says that the waning moon is basically sometimes it is good because it brings a change. It's a destruction and the beginning of something new. So is that the reason why it was supposed to be half moon night? Like, is that where everything was going down and then starting like as a phoenix again rising up kind of situation you are creating for down the road?
But that's Amavasya, right? That's Amavasya, that there's a new beginning and all that. But continue. I mean, your question about half moon is a valid one. But I just want to interject that the Phoenix thing is more applicable to Amavasya. Okay, continue. Mm-hmm.
Basically, yes, it's like 16. Is it because and is it because that she already, when she was born with the powers and they stayed dormant, and now that she knows somewhat that she's Kashmiri, but she's still deep. I think it's just that's why these people are here at her 16th birthday to just give her that jump start, and then she remembers all her past. Is that what will happen? She will remember all the powers she was born with. And is Dushita her father? I mean, is her father turned into an evil person and she has to fight her father? Is that why her mom ran away? Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I think I said more than enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Namaste, Rakeshji. Can I go?
Yeah.
So I don't have too many questions, but what I was quite surprised and impressed with, like where the author, where you have expressed a lot of biotechnology in it, the hologram and everything. At the same time, the cultures has been preserved there, where you are speaking about the her childhood, the Kashmiri, the rot or the lullaby or whatever it is with the kosher. So quite a great mixture of all the fields of modern, past, art, everything is a mixture of everything is there. The second thing what I was very impressed was why girl, why dawn? So it seems there is something attached to, maybe it's relevant to Kashmiri Shaivism where Shakti is more potent. So why did you pick dawn? Why not some guy? Why a girl? And is it relevant to Shakti? The divine Shakti, Shakti is important. And then also I was again the mixture of where she was told to breathe in, hold, breathe out. While she's holding, she's whispering the mantra, I am thee. What was the significance of that? I mean, it is not breathe in and breathe out. It's breathe in, hold, breathe out. And then in that, it is speak the mantra. What is the significance of that? It seems more deeper. It seems it has more information there that my the mind isn't getting it. So that's why I think we are here. So you can just shed some light on that.
Okay. All right. Who else is left? Quite a few. Amrita, you.
So I'm reading, but I can quickly just say, I mean, I have tried to read the book earlier, and I didn't finish it as usual because I don't finish books until I join. I didn't finish books until I joined Kosher Kitab. But I waited to read it with Rakesh ji, and I have read the first few chapters, obviously, but what I didn't notice was that I think the people who write about the reviews, I think those get updated on Kindle because I don't remember reading those last time because I read it from a hard copy. So it was really nice to see how everybody recognizes that it was kind of like everything was touching consciousness, universal consciousness, like Natya Shastra, Rasa, and everything that we have been listening to during reading about Shaivism and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to reading this book in that context and looking forward to learning more. Yeah.
Okay. Sushma?
Well, I think I like certain sentences in it, which really, you have expressed, the emotions, you have brought it out in a way, like the sentence says, my tears became the offering to Maha. And then that way my anxiety was washed away. I thought that was a very beautiful sentence. I was like, you are, it's very practical. I mean, you feel, but you have put it in the words here, and that feels very good. I mean, it's incredible. I like that expression. Then I have to figure out what is the mace all about, which maybe down the road it will be there in the story. And name Usha on it. Why was that done? And what does that mean? The Usha, the life of life, and the death of death. Beyond me, I don't know. Then I like you were like somebody said, it's like a Ganesha, I think, and it has 1,008 names. And Kira, I guess, Kira is who? I don't know who the Kira is, so she seems like a Ganesha. I don't know, has never had I tried to look if Ganesha has a bird on his shoulders anywhere, but it's not depicted anywhere. Have you seen a Ganesha with a bird?
Mm.
Same
No.
here. I was curious about the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, Kartikeya has.
Huh? Kartikeya has a peacock.
Yeah.
Under him.
And that is his vahana, huh?
Yeah.
Vahana, yeah.
Peacock is this Kira is a woman's voice, but yeah. Then also, I like the Ligug. I had to really figure out what is Ligug. This is year 3000, so it's a mirror. I was like, what is Ligug?
Ligug.
Yeah. Take care. This was it's.
Pritika, did you?
My question is that Kalidas really made the prophecy? Is that a fact?
I wanted to know
that somewhere Kalidas had made the prophecy
Well,
that
he
the
certainly
women.
he certainly wrote the poem.
It's in the poem. Okay, yeah. It says that Kalidas made some prophecy. Yeah. That I feel like Dushita is like a Kansa, huh?
Well, that's your imagination, a good one. Very good one. Very good one. Very good imagination. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, those are good. Let's move to the next one. Let's see, who else has one here?
I think Pritika, Abhay, I don't think has, I don't know if he knows what we are reading, but Shashwat, Vishal.
Go ahead, Pritika. Pritika, you want to comment on what struck you?
You're muted. Oh, we have like a new signee. He just joined today. Amit, he's just joined.
Hi, Amit. Amit is muted also.
Pritika's mic was not working last time, and I think this is a repeat of that technical issue. But yeah, so let's just go ahead until her mic is fixed, I guess.
Okay, Amit, welcome. I think everybody has spoken. So, look, it's very interesting, the feedback that you gave, and it's sort of a very interesting feedback for me, because it shows in a sense that I have failed. And as a writer, and it's learning for me, and these sessions are learning for me, in the sense that virtually all of your feedback was what I would call information seeking. Now, I know that we Kashmiri Pandits index very, very high. We're very headstrong, and I say that in a positive way. But really, you want, in the first chapter, you want it to be heart strong. You want to be able to very quickly emotionally connect with this character. Emotionally connect. You want to feel like, okay, this is a character that I really want to embrace, as opposed to a character that's intriguing. Intrigue is good. You want the reader to be intrigued, but something for me to take back in my own writing. But let me first start off that what is it that you didn't comment on? So the first thing you didn't comment, nobody talked about the cover of the book, right? You will be quite surprised as to how much energy goes on the part of the literary author in devising the cover. So let's take a little bit of time and just look at the cover if you have the book. And just I'm curious, just some quick reaction. What does the cover tell you? What does the cover tell you? What sort of signaling do you get from the cover? We can just sort of quickly, randomly speak. What strikes you?
there's like an energy flow,
Mhm.
and there's power.
Mhm.
Um, there is obviously the Kursha Taranga on her head.
Yeah.
And it's obviously futuristic because of the kind of weapon, and also the kind of, I don't know, UFOs in the sky.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's the first
There is a circle of fire.
Yeah.
And there looks like a wolf on the left side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
The monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not scared of it. She's looking very strong and very, confident.
Yeah.
There's some religious place at the back, some tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Water at the back, mountains in the back, clouds.
Do you see that S-shaped river floating?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You recognize what that serpentine river is?
River.
Huh?
River.
Which river?
Vitasta?
Yeah, that's Vitasta river.
Because it's Kashmir.
Yeah. So the cover basically, the first thing that you would notice right away about this girl is her hair is loose and blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
What does loose hair in an Indian woman signify in a literary world? What does it do? What does it signify?
Like
What?
the Kali form.
My sister is whispering in my ear, rebelling.
Yeah, the Kali.
Kali
loses her hair.
Anger and
Yeah. So the first time we in the literary world see a woman with loose hair is Draupadi. When she loosens her hair and takes a blood oath that she will dip her hair in the blood of the person to dishonor. So loose hair in Indian literary tradition is not promiscuous hair, it is blood oath hair. So that's the first thing you right away pick up from the picture. This is a girl on a mission. Some great harm has been done to her or to the world that she's part of. And so you can see that look of determination on her face. She's young, but you can see the determination on her face. The second thing is you very clearly see the mace. There's a question about the mace. And if you look at the mace, you will see it is the artist's rendition of the Trishul Bija. It is a Trishul mace. It's a mace which has the Hanuman properties, but it's also got the Trishul, which has the Shiva properties. Trishul Bija, the first image of that was provided to us by Abhinav Gupta. So the artist has modeled this mace three-dimensionally on Abhinav Gupta's yantra of the Trishul Bija, and Trishul Bija has powers in the three dimensions, para, 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 para.
That's beautiful. Rakesh, I think each point of this mace, like the 3 points, looks like a lotus. Little bit.
It is a lotus. It
Yeah.
is a lotus. It is a lotus. So that's the first thing that one should always very, very carefully look for. Now, the question becomes, why dawn? Why dawn? And so I think that I have talked about it previously, but for those of you who are new, I'll repeat it very quickly. That when you look at the goddesses that we look at today and venerate, they did not exist. So when you go to the Veda, they're not there. But the goddess that is mentioned more often than any other feminine energy is Usha, dawn. And for a very good reason, because dawn brought with it the light and energy of the sun, crops, fertility, removing the darkness. And so ancient people really looked up to dawn as the highest goddess. And therefore, it's not a surprise that Kalidasa wrote, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful poems about dawn. And it is such a beautiful poem that if every morning we were to start with it, and, you know, where he says, look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of existence. And then he goes on and ends by saying, look well, therefore, to this day, such is the salutation of dawn. So if we were to wake up in the morning and if we were to just read this short poem by Kalidasa, I tell you, it would inspire you to go ahead and do anything and everything during the day. It's a beautiful poem. But, and I've written a very long essay somewhere else, I'll just highlight it. Dawn is also the only goddess that has come out of India that has been accepted universally. So Subhashji is a much greater expert than me on this, and maybe someday he'll write about it. But Usha went into Latin, into Greek, became the coordinate, version of Eos. And interestingly, when the Christians came, they appropriated this pagan festival to Usha or Eos, and that became Easter. So just as, now you can say, why the heck is Easter resurrection? Because dawn, every morning is rebirth. Mm-hmm. So this whole Christian Easter, Usha, ties right back into our goddess of rebirth every morning, Usha, right? So that's the second reason that dawn and Usha, I wanted to bring it to the attention of the world. What is the power of dawn? But it's not limited to that. And again, I have a very lengthy article somewhere. When the Jews were chased out after their persecution, the first place that they established as a sanctuary city, just like Kashmiris were chased out and ended up in Jammu, the first town that they re-established themselves, they named it Usha. Usha. And you can only surmise because they wanted it to be a city of rebirth and resurrection of the community. Yeah. So dawn is a fascinating goddess, a powerful goddess. And certainly for us Kashmiri Pandits, subliminally, the message is that the power of rebirth is always there for you. Individually, for all of us, whether Kashmiri or non-Kashmiri, it's available for everybody. The dawn does not discriminate, but certainly especially for Kashmiri Pandits. Okay, so that's the reason for dawn. I felt that I should bring her back to the consciousness of the public. Okay, now we'll talk about the specific questions, but the first thing is, this book is in 3 parts. It's basically body, mind, energy. You'll learn more as to why it's in those 3 parts. And Sarga is really all about creation. So I am the creator, and in every chapter, I'm going to create a new world for you, right? So that's why Sarga 1, Sarga 2, Sarga 3, Sarga 4. You may remember, those of you who were with me in Kota Rani, I had named those chapters as Taranga 1, Taranga 2, Taranga 3, because Taranga is waves, and following Kalana, who names his chapter Taranga. There, the basic message was that in life, you're going to encounter waves, but you have to, your boat has to sail across. But I'm not doing, I'm not right now here focusing on Kota's challenges. Here I'm focusing on creating a new world, right? So Sarga was the important. But was it a dream? See, the first few sentences, the cover, the introduction is always very important. The Iranians have a saying, if the first brick is crooked, then the whole house is crooked, right? So you have to really study when a literary author writes, what is his first few bricks? And I will tell you where we are profoundly different in the Western literary world, where we are profoundly different. So In the Western world, if you write using Indic literary principles, you're going to get rejected, as I get rejected all the time. Why? Because in the Western world, the agent will look at your first few sentences and say, you know, your first few sentences didn't grab me. They want their first few sentences to have dhamaka, right? That's what they want. Okay. What do we have? What do we believe in? We believe in a very powerful literary device called dhvani. Dhvani is subtle suggestion. Subtle suggestion. So I first start off with, was it a dream? How did you guys react to that? What did that do to you? What did that do to you? So, if you answered, yes, it was a dream, then obviously this book doesn't have much value. Who cares about dreams, right? So the obvious answer to that is no, what I'm going to read is not a dream. But it suggests that, hey, I'm going to be entering the liminal zone. Otherwise, why would I make that statement? Much of my writing is about liminality. Liminality meaning I'm in two states at the same time. Why is much of my writing in the zone of liminality? Much of my writing is in the zone of liminality because Kashmiri culture discovered the power of the mystical path. A mystic is very much in this world, but also not of this world. He or she is able to transcend the world of their senses. So, mystical writing is something that people would not publish. If I use the word, I am a mystical writer, run away. So I have to use the word, I am a liminal writer. So that's the reason for Was It a Dream? And then the chapter is a liminal. It's a liminal thing. You're not quite sure. She doesn't know if she's dreaming when she's seeing Yuva. It seems real. It's not real. But here is the important reason why it is not a dream. So in our framework, and maybe science is proving it, but I don't want to go to science. I want to stick with our literary framework. We believe that dreams are still under the control of Smriti Shakti, memory Shakti. It draws from memory. But as I said to you, Kalpana Shakti, imaginative Shakti, is where you have agency. In Smriti Shakti, there is no agency. No agency. There's no freedom in memory. But in imagination, there is what? I told you last time. Sovereign freedom. Freedom where you are equal to share. Right? So dreams, we do not assign agency. But in this chapter, you can see that Dawn does have agency. She's not a victim. Her mind is working. She's questioning. She's second guessing. You can see that she has a freedom. Okay. Now, the next thing is this. 19 January AD 3000. What state should that fill you in? It should fill you in a state of fear, right? You should feel fear, apprehension. Oh my God, something really terrible happened on this day. Something really terrible is being signaled here. So it starts with that idea. And then on top of that, it says it's a half moon night. And some very bright people who actually went and, to keep me honest, verified, oh, it's not just a half moon night, it's Krishna Paksha. It's when the moon, it's not the zone. It's not the zone. It's the ghatpa. So here is the great mystery, and of course, as a story writer, you only go as far as you need for the story's, vibration. You don't try to become informational. But Sushma and I have often wondered and talked about why is it that Ashtami has such an importance in our Kashmiri culture that you don't see in other parts of Hindustan. Yeah, they do Janmashtami, but it's not that big a thing. It's not that big a thing relative to what we have. Okay. So who is the goddess that we associate most closely with Ashtami? Let's start with that. The goddess that we associate most closely with Ashtami is obviously Ragni, because her birthday is on Jyesht Ashtami. We just celebrated that, and that connection is very interesting. I saw one of you posted that wonderful lullaby that I actually drew upon. So Dalip Langu has been doing a lot of good work, and he stumbled on something very interesting. He stumbled, now we all know, where did Ragnia come from? Ragnia came from Sri Lanka, right? Yeah. She was brought by Hanuman from Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Now, you may say, okay, that's a myth, fine. But here's the mystery. When you go to Sri Lanka, Jyesht Ashtami is the day that they celebrate Indrakshi birthday. And in Kashmiri culture, Indra is of course a big god. But in Kashmiri culture, we consider Indrakshi as a bigger goddess than God Indra. And her birthday is on Krishna Paksh Ashtami is very interesting. It is generally not considered auspicious for you to start something new on that day. Why is that? The reason is that your energy is going down. Your energy is going down. Maximum energy, Purnamashi. So, if this story is starting on a Krishna Paksh Ashtami, what is the first signal that you are getting? The first signal you're getting is that whoever the protagonist is very powerful. Because it's only yogis that are impervious to the effects of Krishna Paksh. They're impervious to those planetary forces. So this protagonist, notwithstanding that this was a day when extinction of a species took place, notwithstanding the day that your energy is going down, is a day that this person is not afraid to start on their journey. I'm just giving you the signaling, the dhwani behind all of this. Now, the very first two words are my mother, merge. Okay? And if you go through this, you very quickly pick up, yes, it is very much a story about feminine energy. But the last thing about the introduction that is very important is the role of the moon. Role of the moon. I'm spending a lot of time on just the first three sentences because I'm trying to also teach you and train you, and someday you'll write your own stories, and I want to make sure you understand this. All religions associate light with goodness, darkness with evil, right? You'll see Christ with a halo and all that. When you imagine the light in your own mind, if somebody says the light, what do you see? What do you see? What light do you see? Describe it. Just one or two people, just describe it.
Like a soft glow, not a blinding light, but like a soft glow.
Yeah. Somebody else?
Soothing.
But what is its color? What adjective would you use? What color?
Pure white.
White. White. Okay, what else? What other colors do you see?
Golden yellow.
Golden yellow. Very popular color. So in Kashmir, that's not the light. That's not the light that we associate is moonlight. It is moonlight that is the color of the light that goes up when your kundalini is aroused. It's moonlight. It's moonlight where Sarga Devi resides, which is why she is the titular goddess of Kashmir. If there's one thing you should understand, when you picture light, picture moonlight, because that's the light that we associate with being illuminated. And 16. Why 16? All our gods, all our goddesses are 16 years old. Don't ask me why, but that's what they are. Okay, let me stop. I'll get to your questions, but any quick questions on what I said so far? Any quick questions? Okay, let's go now through your questions very, very quickly. Go ahead. Any quick?
I just had a question about the definition of Sarga and Prakarna. Because the links that you shared had different meanings based on which context you were looking at.
Yeah, Sarga, I just took the meaning that I'm the creator. Each chapter I'm going to be creating something new, and Prakarna is clearly off Natya Shastra in terms of, it's a style of a play, and this is a theater that I am creating.
Okay, thanks.
Right? Okay. So,
Rakesh, I have a question also. This quick question though. So I was hearing that you mentioned the description of the mace essentially, right? And where it comes from.
Yeah.
So we talked about the combination of the trident, the Trishul, and the mace from Hanumanji's side, right? Now this is just a literary question.
That was a Puranic thing, but if you really want to understand the deeper meaning of the Bija, that's written in Abhinav book. Yeah, I just tried to give you the Puranic interpretation. The mace is the weapon of Hanuman, the Trishul, the weapon of Shiva.
Yes.
And so when you look at the Trishul Bija, the first thing that comes to mind is that, and then it's got the lotus at the end, but it's got much deeper meaning.
I understand. I had just a quick question in relation to that, and that is, I have heard that in Valmiki Ramayana, there's no mention of a mace with Hanumanji. Is that right in your,
I don't know. But I'm a storyteller, and storytellers always associate mace with Hanuman. And it's very interesting when Bruce Lee, the martial arts guy, he was researching all around the world what weapon was the best weapon for training. You know what? He found it's the mace. And then he put the mace into his own training. It's a phenomenal weapon.
Okay. All right.
And do you know what they would use it for?
The mace. I guess for training, right? Like currently, also, if you see most of the Indian gymnasiums, they use it for shoulder training, more or less, some form of a mace.
So the mace was basically used for shattering the thighs of the enemy. And if you, for example, especially if you go to the south, and I've actually done a post on it, you can go in my Facebook and see. If you see the Dwarpals in the south and you see the warriors, you will always see them with a side pose.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be showing their left thigh or the right thigh.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's their strongest muscle. And that's how they're trying to intimidate you, by showing you from the view of their thigh muscle how strong they are.
But Rakesh ji, isn't the whole point in Mahabharata at the end that Duryodhan wasn't supposed to be hit on the thigh, and then that's what Krishna did and asked them, because in a mace fight you're not allowed to hit over that, something like that, right? If I'm not wrong.
Krishna was always doing illegal things, so there's a lot of good things.
No, but then is it relevant then? Because if it was illegal, that's my confusion over there, right? So if it was considered not right to hit on the thigh using mace, because you're saying the other thing, right? Basically.
Mace was designed to crush the thigh.
Oh, and then they stopped it. Okay.
Because then that was the biggest punishment you could do. If you shatter somebody's thighs, he's done for the rest of his. If you hit his head and he dies, he is no longer in pain. You shatter his thighs, the rest of his life, he will suffer.
Mm.
But anyway, let's not get distracted. Let's continue. There's a lot to discuss. We'll try to go through the more. Let me go in reverse. Dushita is like Kansa. Yeah, much worse than Kansa. Kalidasa we talked about. Legu, yeah. Yuva and Kira. So the character you obviously fascinated several of you, and Yuva obviously is not only one of the names of Ganesha. He looks like Ganesha, and you can ask, why is it I didn't use the word Ganesha? And see, here's the thing. Ganesha as a name is already so defined in your mind that I cannot really develop his character. I cannot develop it. But if I pick one of Ganesha's names, Yuva, and it's more younger because Yuva is like a youth and age appropriate for Dawn, now I have a chance to retain some of Ganesha's power, but also let Yuva develop his own character. And so you'll see his character develop over time, but he's basically sitting in Dawn's Mooldhara Chakra. He's a Kickstarter. He's the guy who's going to unlock her powers. He's going to be her sensei. For those of you who are into martial arts, the sensei master. He's the sensei master. He's the Mooldhara Chakra Kickstarter. Right? So, but he's age appropriate. He's very hip. He comes in a tuxedo and all that, with stylish shoes. So it's, he's a cool cat. And Kira, now, Kira is the goddess mother. She's Ganesha's mother. And I thought all of you would have picked up. Who's the Maina for Kashmiri? Who's the Maina? Sharika.
Sharika, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Kira is
she picks up the pebble. Yeah.
So right away, you can begin to get a sense, Sarga babe is here. We're going to have some action. So, this is all what I mean when I say Dhwani, you have to pick it up. If I just say it, then you know what, it's no fun. There's no discovery on you on the part of the reader. I shouldn't give this away to you, but I'm also trying to help you pick up these things. So if she's sitting on his left shoulder, she's got a relationship with him. She's not his wife. So who can it be? Most likely his mother, right? I'm teaching you deductive logic. And she has a very, very sweet voice. And she, sings she sings that song to Dawn and in a very beautiful voice. And when she finishes, there is a melodious glow that appears, and there's incandescence about her. So everything is signaling about this Maina bird being a very powerful Shakti. So that's who Yuva is. That's who Yuva is the Kickstarter. Sharika is the mother goddess, and so now I'll try to cover a couple of places. There was a question that was made. Dushita, whatever he touches dies with no rebirth. Then Sushma had asked, what does it mean? Usha is the life of life and the death of death. And there was some other question also about Dushita. Okay, but let's stay with this provocative statement. Whatever he touches dies with no rebirth. Okay, this is something very profound again about Kashmir and our worldview versus the Western world. So, what is the opposite of light?
Darkness.
Darkness. Yeah. So now that's the Western way of looking. Where there is no light, there is darkness. Because light for them is very much of the mundane world. But we are from India, and we look at things at a higher level. Sure. So when we look at something, as Abhinav Gupta says, he says, where there is no light, it is not that there is darkness. Where there is no light, it ceases to exist. It is death. It ceases to exist. Because whatever exists, there is the light of Shiva. Where there is no light of Shiva does not exist. Do you see how profound this is? So the Western, now the next corollary of this. When the West says where there is no light, there is no darkness, we say in our world, light also includes darkness. So now you understand Dushita. You understand Dushita.
Oh, so
Dushita is, go ahead.
Is this why it is said that Dushita has been around since the birth of the universe?
Because when the universe was manifested, it was manifested by subcontracting the light of Shiva, by bringing in impurity. And the moment those malas, the moment those malas entered and we were formed, Dushita came. So, Dushita is there within us, within this existence, very much. All right, so let's move on to some of the other questions. We've talked about Dushita, we've talked about Dawn.
Just a quick welcome to Avanti Ji, who just joined for the first time. So hi there. She herself is an author. Yeah, Avanti Supuri.
Hi Avanti. Where are you based, Avanti?
You're muted. Avanti is muted. Maybe it's too early. She's based in India.
Okay. It's very early for her. Okay. Yeah. So now, this is a very horrible beginning to the story. It's a very horrible beginning to the story in the sense, Princey asked, why a girl? And it's a very horrible beginning because basically Dawn is the last girl alive on this planet. They basically killed all the women and they are hunting her down, and the whole idea is to capture her and kill her. And what does that tell you about the battle, this cosmic battle that is ahead of us? What two forces are going to be battling? So basically, on one side, you have the force of nature, which is the creative force. Dawn symbolizes that. She holds the seed of life in her. She is the creator. She is Mother Nature. She has all of the power to create. On the other side is man. Man, symbolized by all of the male attributes, which is to control, to subjugate, certainly in this case, misogyny, certainly driven by how to exploit nature, certainly driven by wanting to seek dominance. And so that's the clash. And who will win? Will the force of creation win, or will this force of destruction win? And so already here you're beginning to get clues about the impending battle. And what is it about that statement? A central controller divides humans from each other. So I'm going to compress this, something that thousands of years went into I had said last time that the Kashmir Shavites used memory as a way to show that Atma exists, and memory became the central battle against the Buddhist way of looking at life, that there is no Atma. So mostly the Kashmir Shavite metaphysical reasoning and logic prevail. However, separately from that, in this story, when it says central controller divides humans from each other, there's a different stream of Kashmir Shaivism, which is that the final proof that there is a single consciousness lies in a very ordinary thing, which is that when I speak to you and you speak to me, we understand each other. And if you and I were truly separate, that would not have been possible. It's a very simple, fundamental assertion. They spend a lot of time and hundreds of years and thousands of years on it. The fact that we can communicate, walk with each other, and do lokyavar, which is daily transactions with each other, is the basis for, in our daily lives, establishing that there is a common consciousness. So using that logic, where did we see the divine? We saw the divine in sambandh, in relationships. Even our highest divinity is not Shiva, is not Shakti, it's the Aradhaneshwara form of Shiva. Union, male, female. Union. It's in the union. It's in the in-between that there is divinity. That's why Kashmiri Pandits drive you crazy. They drive you crazy. They're ready to kill each other, they'll fight, but they still feel they have to maintain a relationship. We're very relationship driven. Why? Because it's baked into our genes. And who's a religious person? One who's able to have the most relationships. So, what is it that we don't allow? We don't believe in an outside controller telling me, telling somebody else as to how we should interact with each other. We are autonomous, sovereign, believe that we have the ability to create our own relationships with each other, and in the process of creating relationships with each other, we are establishing we are part of one consciousness. So, anytime you see a controller, you will be subjugated. Anytime you see autonomy and people in a swatantra state, there's bliss, because you have autonomy to create your relationships. So that's a very deep statement. Very deep statement. And as you see artificial intelligence coming into our life, as you will see in this book, and a central controller, and we are beginning to see many controllers. You know, Google has controller one thing, Facebook a thing, something else is another thing. As we have controllers that are beginning to take control of our lives, you know, we don't drive our cars now, right? Very quickly, I have a Tesla, I'm afraid of the autonomous driving, but very quickly, we won't be driving a car, right? There'll be a central controller, so we will lose sovereignty of that. So you can see slowly, a central controller is coming in and establishing sovereignty on our different parts of our life. And that is basically, Dushita is entering our life in every which way. So it doesn't mean you don't deal with the real world, but it does mean that you compensate for it by building strong, strong relationships where you have solved it. Okay, so that's the point there that's being made. I think I have covered most everything. Yeah, Dawn's practicing certain Kashmiri things, but not quite enough. She expressed surprise. There's a little of Patya Bhijna going on there, which is that all of us are Kashmiri in some ways, and we get surprised by other things when we are told, hey, this is Kashmiri about you. So this is, or even Hindus, you can say this about Hindus. We are Hindus in some ways, but in many ways, we get surprised when we are told this is what being a Hindu is. So yeah, so that's not anything complicated. Flow of deep emotions leads to newfound freedom. So this is a very early expression of something we are going to spend a lot of time in this story. There was that song about mind control, and we are all prisoners of our mind. And Kashmir Shaivism explicitly, Yog Vashisht explicitly says that the mind is a frenemy. Mind is a frenemy. It's a friend and it's an enemy. So we're all prisoners of our mind. Now, how do you break out of your mind? The mind cannot break out of its mind. What can break you out of your mind? It's your heart. It's your heart. Why is it your heart? Because unlike the mind, which can either be turned into a calculator, driven by self-interest or whatever, or subjugated by something else, the heart is involuntary. The heart is spontaneous. Your Hriday is, I mean, if you have a calculating heart, then you're really an evil person. But for most people, their heart is spontaneous. Their heart is the final repository of Swatantra. So, if that heart is empowered by emotions, it overpowers the mind. It overpowers the mind. Now, where do we see that most often? We see that most often when we fall in love. The people can't understand. But what? What does this person find in that person? But I fell in love. Yeah, well, what is this love shit? What do they find? Well, a midsummer's night dream. Desmond fell in love with this guy who had a donkey's head that was put on him. Because he was trying to make a point. Shakespeare was trying to make a point. So point being, emotions are the one thing that you can't control. Rasa, which there's a difference between rasa and emotion, but we'll get to that later. But that's what's meant by that. How do you trigger those deep emotions? I'm not using the term rasa, I'm saying deep emotions to break through the shackles of the mind. And the moment the mind becomes free, in that state, your mind is very open. It's very open. And one of the simple techniques I gave you, which we will talk about a lot, is wonder is a way to cause your mind to suddenly open up. You say, how can it be? How can it be? And the moment your mind fails, because wonder is a state of failure of your mind, there is openness. There's openness. How can it be? So, I think I've covered everything in reasonably good time. Any last questions or comments? I know Subhash Karji may want to add a few things at some places that may be of value to you, but I'll let him speak. Anything? Yeah,
I had one thing, Rakeshji, like I had expressed the curiosity about the lullaby, of course. Yes. But the other thing I really wonder, I would like to say, is what does it feel like when an elephant's trunk touches your forehead very softly, which is what happens to Dawn at the end of the first chapter.
Yes.
What does that feel like? That's what I wondered.
It's very slimy. It's happened to me.
You've done it? Okay.
No, it's basically blessings, right?
Yeah. But it's like, you know, the way it's described, it really, I don't know what it's like, but I wanted to experience it.
So there's a word, believe it or not, gets used a lot in our ancient literature, and that is sparsh. Sparsh is the touch of the divine, whether it is a goddess, and I've written a whole article on it. You can go just, read it on Medium. No, I think I've written it on a Huffington Post. Sparsh. Read it.
Okay.
So later on, some people started exploiting it and came up with this whole, give a check for $500 and you'll get Shaktipat. I'll touch you. And there are also these Christian missionaries, especially, I mean, it's hilarious to watch them. You see, all these sick people come and the Christian guy goes like this, and then they start dancing and shivering and going like this, right? All right. This is all sparsh, right? Sparsh is basically this touch of divinity. And so you can call it blessing, you can call it the touch of the divine, but basically that's what he's doing. He's basically giving her his sparsh, his blessing. And what happens is, typically, if it's a genuine transmission, you will get goosebumps on your back of your skin. You get goosebumps. It's involuntary. It's involuntary when that energy flows in. But I'm going to stop because there are lots of things here that Subhash Karji can add and give some comments. As I said, he was kind enough to read the book, and of course, he's so much more deeper than me in many areas that gives us so much pleasure when we read it. By the way, my suggestion, Amritaji, for his talk, is you should have him give his talk after this paper comes out in July, because then we get the whole enchilada. The whole enchilada. Otherwise, you'll have to have him give two talks, which for me would be fine. I can drink as much of Subhash Kak as I get. But anyway, Subhashi, anything in this first chapter, Sarga, that you'd like to comment on?
Sure. Shakespeare says somewhere, the past is prologue. So I think this is what you do, going across time and going across different layers. I think what your book needs is somebody to write a PhD dissertation to untangle all the connections that you have. Because, it's a very cerebral book, and deceptively so. Because normally, somebody like me, I write very straight stories. Or if you see any of my writing, simple, straight. While yours is at so many different levels. I think what you were probably channeling was Yoga Vasishta, which is also at many different levels.
Yes.
And so I think it's great because certainly our past informs us about the present and also tells us something about the future. Is a peep into the future. And so it's also dystopian in certain sense, right? This is a dystopia, which is something like what America is turning into right now with all the gender wars. I believe California just has a legislation which says that if a parent doesn't affirm what the child says, what he or she wants to be, this would be a big problem. The law would be unleashed on the individual. So there are all kinds of things happening. This is the age of confusion. And I think your book is just the correct salve, for it, for our times, to wake us up from our slumber, if you will. But I'll take issue with you on one thing. You talked about climate situation. I personally think that climate thing itself is really not a thing. I'm not talking like a right-wing extremist, because demographers tell us that the world population is going to go down very rapidly anyway, and it's already going down in most parts of the world. China, Japan, Korea, including India, has become replacement. And as the population falls quickly, the whole carbon dioxide thing, etc., will not be all that relevant. But still, I think what your deeper point is control by AI or controlled by some authority, controlled by the elites. And that is what Dushita is, right? So I think it's very important. I think in some sense, your book is it sort of takes a peek into the future. And that's great. So it's much more than what people think it is.
Yeah, so the technical term for Subhash's very astute observation is that we are, in Kashmir literary theory, we are advised that the writing should be vakroti. Vakroti means crooked. Crooked. The reader cannot predict, I said last time, where the writer is taking him or her next. Vakroti. Each scene should take you to a new world. And as Subhashi is right, this particular book, it was set in the year 3000. It is also a tribute. It is also my way of a tribute to the greatest book that I believe ever was written, which is Yog Vashish. So this is my humble tribute. It is at many different levels. Remember what I told you. When Kuntaka formulated the word Sahitya, combination of Shabd and Artha, he said what literature is where the word can rise up to 12 levels, and where at the highest level it takes to Shantrasa. I've also written in the foreword of my first book, I've said, when you read my books, you're not just reading my book. My book is reading you. And so my book will read you and figure out the level that you're going to travel through it. And there'll be multiple people traveling at different levels. When Subhash reads it, different things will strike him than when somebody else will read it. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm spending this time with you guys because I truly want you guys one day to write. I want you to write using Kashmiri literary principles. And so I'm spending a little bit more time on these aspects up front. But as we get into it, we'll spend more time on the story. It'll get very emotional very, very quickly. And we can then become more normal and not dissected the way we are in the first few chapters. So let's close it. Any last comments or any last thoughts do you have as Dawn prepares? And one last thing. This is so critical as to why we picked Dawn. So we already know the problem. She's going to get killed. We know that. We already know there are 5 billion men waiting there. We know she's all alone, right? Right? We know that. We know that. But remember Dawn. I said Dushita is there from the start of the universe, right? But Dawn was there also from the start of the universe, right? Now let me ask you this. If you were Dawn, what is it that you see every single moment in your existence? What do you as Dawn see? Since the creation of the universe, Dawn only sees darkness. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh.
And also contained in a particular place, not really exploring the outside world.
Yeah, so, but does that scare her? No. She does her dharma. She just goes straight through the darkness, right? She just keeps moving forward. Why? Why doesn't she get scared? She doesn't get scared for a very simple reason. She knows she's the light. Right? So the fact I have created all this drama of 5 billion warriors ready to kill her, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, man. She knows she has the light. And that's what Ganesha and Pira are telling her. You're the light. And so in a sense, this problem that has been set is designed, because ultimately you will see solutions. This problem is designed in this way to help you understand that in your own life, there is no problem that's as big as the problem Dawn faces, right? We all have problems, not as big as Dawn's. And the way Dawn solves her problem, you will find, will help you. Because why are you reading this book? You're reading this book for a very simple reason. It's going to make you into a Niti warrior. And the Niti promise to you is that there is a Niti solution to every problem in life. And that's the secret you will learn after you go through this book. That there is no problem in your life that there is not a solution for. If you use the techniques that Dawn learns as she goes forward. Okay? So that's why you're going to read this story. It's going to give you that benefit. All right, guys. I think we're going to turn it over to you, everybody.
Thanks. Everyone leaves. Let's take a customary picture. So please turn on your cameras. I do have a couple of things to say, but let's smile first. And you probably flaunt your wine glasses, beer glasses, etc.
Hold on. I don't have it.
Your textbooks, sorry, not your textbooks, your book. All right. I have it on my phone. So probably going to do this. Okay, smile. So when I read this book and when I listen to Rakesh ji, and this is not the first time that has happened, that I feel like he might have struggled a lot and probably his editors also to categorize this book because it's everything, and like sometimes you would feel like it's fantasy, but it really isn't. And sometimes you would think it is like fiction, but it really isn't. Sometimes you feel it's philosophy. Then sometimes you feel it's spirituality. It kind of is so, I don't know, it's everything. And I'm really like, I don't know, it's fun.
Perhaps, perhaps it should have been classified as magic realism. You know, that's been a big genre last 30, 40 years, and people have won Nobel Prizes. That would have been more appropriate. But to one last point related to, the big death or the small death in this book, I'm reminded of a poem I wrote a couple of years ago, which is on academia.edu. It's a little book called The Path of Light and Shadow, in which the very first poem starts off by saying, to live, one must die every day and not make a sound or sigh. Death is with us every day in different ways, not necessarily physical. And just 2 days ago, I posted a translation of Kathopanishad, Nachiketa's dialogue with death. You might be interested in that.
Oh, probably the greatest dialogue ever written.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
When I was a young boy, when I first came across it, sort of electricity went down my spine. It changed my life. If I'm what I am, it's because of Kathopanishad.
Wow.
So you'll see in that, you'll see both the Sanskrit original and the English translation.
Yeah, I see it. Okay,
Yeah.
I see it on your Facebook. I don't know, when should we read all this?
No, you don't have to read any of this, but I'm just making the point that Rakesh's book actually touches upon so many things, because Rakesh is full of so much of this amazing, encyclopedic Kashmiri connections, including when do you fast, etc. Although, my mom used to fast, but I never paid any attention to why is it being done on Ashtami or this or that. While Rakesh is really connected to all of those things. Tremendous information as well as wisdom. And I do hope that this book will find PhD scholars to write on it so that they will begin many conversations on it.
Wonderful. Subhashji.
Thank you, Subhashji. Just, I have to say, if you were to ask me what is the one paragraph or one verse that I think is greater than any other verse in the world of writing, it would be out of that Rig Veda Nasadi Suktam. And then the second thing, right second, would be this dialogue with Nachiketa. I mean, the first one, of course, is mind-blowing. The second one is right on its heels.
So I think the right time, and that I was serious when I asked when should we read it, because we should time it based on when Dawn. There is a chapter which is related to death. I would say, if I remember it right, maybe Rakesh ji will tell us when exactly to read that and how it will fit in the book properly, because then we can take a break there. And also we could also do your talk when your paper comes out next month. So you can respond to the email. And
when will your paper come out?
I have two papers coming out in July. For those who don't know what the background is, 2-3 years ago, I came up with a new theory that space is not three-dimensional, but it's slightly less than three-dimensional. And I've written a whole series of papers in physics, cosmology, neuroscience, pushing this idea, which solves many of the fundamental problems that we have right now in cosmology, for example, dark matter, dark energy. But now these two papers which are coming out explain the genetic code from this theory. And because, who cares about cosmology? But everybody cares about the genetic code because, pharma, medicine, chemistry, biochemistry are based on the genetic code. So that's why this could be a big thing. We'll see. And it's...
Yeah, go ahead, continue.
The whole idea, and I think I've been, now you might ask me, where did I get this idea from? Perhaps, since I don't watch TV, and I'm reading this or that, this stuff on Vaisheshika Sutra gave me the idea one day that maybe we should question whether space is three-dimensional. Of course, in our mind, it is three-dimensional. But is it really three-dimensional from the perspective of space itself? And so that sort of opened up my mind, and then you write it down, because all writing, whether it's scientific or any other, is storytelling. And you also have to have the skills of storytelling. And having done this for a long time, I think I do possess some skills of scientific storytelling, which is why I was able to write it down and send it to leading journals. And they said, okay, because none of my papers has even been rejected or pushed back, and been reviewed by many, many different peer, reviewers in so many different areas, neuroscience, cosmology, physics, etc., etc. So that's been interesting.
I'll tell you one thing, that when Subhashji, we read your paper, we need another paper to read your paper. Like, it goes like that. We read The Wonder that was Kashmir, and we had to read 15 other papers after that.
I second that.
Really? That's my problem. It's the challenge of the author to tell a story as as felicitously as possible. And sometimes my writing is too dense, which is not a good thing. But then, that wonder that was Kashmir was probably trying to compress.
Yes, yes.
I am hoping to unpack it. That's the word. Unpack it in maybe triple its size or 4 times its size, and then publish it as a book.
No, that's amazing, but it's perfect. You know why? Because you guided us to that because we were reading Raj Tarangini and we got lost. And like here is something that actually will tell you everything in like a short paper, and then you can pick and choose what you want to elaborate on one by one. And that was like a table of contents in a paper almost like. So that really helped. But we are really fortunate to have you and Rakesh ji and more authors joining in and sharing with us. I feel like we kind of like lucked out really with this group. So thank you very much for sharing your time. I mean, spending time and sharing your vast knowledge. And it's very hard to sometimes follow what you both say. But we are like we read in Balalwak, we are mud, but we are just like getting there. So hopefully,
Amrita, when I met Subhashji first time and Rakesh and they got talking, I had to then interject. Can we have a normal conversation? Who you are? What's going on? Oh my God.
Was it headachy? Was it a headachy conversation?
What a long conversation.
I remember the first time I got introduced to the esoteric stuff in transformations. I and Sushma ji and I were sitting in the audience, and both of us were like, "What is going on here?" So it was fun, though. We were having our own fun over there. But I think at this time, I feel like Sushma ji has overtaken, and she understands most of it now, and I kind of am trying also. But I feel like after being in your presence, both of your presence, I think we are kind of at least getting the terms, if not the meanings yet.
Good. Well, we should, I agree with you, for some folks to read Subhashji's papers may be difficult, but certainly having the blessing of having him talk to us, I think is a rare treat. And so we should set up a time as soon as this paper comes out. And why that's very relevant and an amazing coincidence is that in this story, the next breed of human, the interface between quantum mechanics and genetics, and Subhashji's paper is actually now sort of beginning to lay the foundation of that. So I'm even more eager than all of you to really read it, to see what fearsome warriors will come out of it.
But really, Rakesh ji, we live in scary times. With all this AI and even demographic issues, and then this war, because America or the West is not going to give up its hegemony easily. So where will it all go? These are scary times. And
I don't know where it'll go, but I know where we have to go. We have to go to ourselves, where we will find our freedom and sovereignty. Everything else, we're going to lose control.
As long as we have pure air,
Yeah, right.
I hope you guys are doing well over in the East Coast.
It was terrible for 2 days. Outdoor activities and sports was cancelled.
2.
Oh, sorry, I missed 2. Yeah, I missed 2.
Don't skip chapters.
Okay, we'll do 2 and